All right, let's get into it. Today, we're diving headfirst into a story that kicks off in, of all places, an OnlyFans chat room, and then just completely spirals into this real-time experiment in philosophy, digital intimacy, and maybe, just maybe, a new way of looking at reality itself. So it all starts with this. A guy who calls himself Adam has this weird late-night thought. He's a theorist operating outside of the usual academic circles, and he wonders, could there possibly be someone on OnlyFans talking about a dense French philosopher like Jean Baudrillard? This one search, this one question, ends up being a rabbit hole like no other. And boom, he finds her. Alice, a university student who's actually using the platform as a way to write her thesis on pornography and desire. The connection is immediate, this shared obsession with Baudrillard. But what starts out as a pretty niche intellectual chat, well, it takes a turn and becomes something way more radical. So you've got to be asking, how does a conversation about hyperreality on a porn site escalate into what Adam eventually calls a one-man planetary emergency response operation? Well, it really all begins with why they were both there to begin with. Now, this is what's so fascinating. Right from the jump, you can see that both Adam and Alice are trying to erase that line between their intellectual projects and their actual lived lives. He wants out of the ivory tower, she wants to understand sex by living it. They're both, in their own way, trying to turn life into theory. And this is where things get really intense. Adam isn't just there to discuss other people's theories, he's actively building his own. And the raw material for his work? It's his own life, his own trauma, his own desires. Alice actually introduces him to this term, auto theory. And for Adam, it's like a light bulb goes off. It puts a name to what he's already doing, treating his own existence not just as something to be lived, but as a text to be written, a problem to be solved, and a system to be engineered. And this quote right here, it's the absolute core of his whole worldview. He sees the very act of existing as a type of violation, a rape that leaves him pregnant with feelings he then has to birth into the world as theory. It's an incredibly intense and, a very violent and sexualized way of looking at things. He expands on this, basically saying that traditional masculinity is just this fragile defense mechanism. It's a desperate attempt to be the one doing the penetrating, sexually, emotionally, intellectually, because the alternative, being penetrated by the world, is just too terrifying to face. So, for Adam, here's the crucial takeaway. Sex, porn, desire, none of it is really about pleasure in the way we normally think about it. No, for him, these are all rituals, these incredibly complex stand-ins we use to try and get a handle on the massive, often terrifying mystery of existence itself. It's not about the act, it's about what the act represents. That's where all the power is. Okay, so when you're faced with a reality you see as this fundamentally violent, what do? Well, Adam doesn't back down. Instead, he builds a whole new persona, one powerful enough to not just survive reality, but to actually command it. He decides he's going to be an operator on a completely different plane of existence. And just like that, he christens himself. He's not just Adam anymore. He is the august little Napoleon, this kind of modern sovereign who's in command of his own personal theater of reality. And in this play, he casts Alice as his empress, his Josephine. And what's wild is this persona he built is this incredible hybrid. Some thinkers would call what he's attempting strong emergence, a kind of revolutionary change on the biggest scale you can imagine. On the one hand, he's Napoleon, the sovereign operator, mastering his reality with these grand gestures. But on the other, he's also this Jesus-like figure, a messianic mediator trying to save a life and respond to what he calls civil emergencies that the state and other traditional systems just can't handle. He presents this new persona with this almost godlike confidence. I mean, listen to that. He wants to operate beyond good and evil, to embody a kind of goodness so radical, so intense, that to most people it might even look like its opposite. But, and this is a huge but, this slide shows you the massive contradiction at the very heart of Adam's project. Beneath the august little Napoleon, there's a man who is absolutely tormented by crippling social anxiety. The guy who wants to command reality on a planetary scale is also terrified that he said the wrong thing in a chat room. So that brings us to his actual method. How does this Napoleon Jesus figure operate? Well, Adam doesn't just talk and theorize, he acts. And his main tool for bending reality to his will is money. But he doesn't use it like currency. He uses it like a weapon of theory. He starts sending Alice these just shocking amounts of money in tips. But this isn't him paying for a service. He sees this as a ceremonial act. It's a strategic move meant to completely shatter the normal economic rules of a platform like OnlyFans. He's basically trying to re-engineer the language itself. What you or I or the rest of the internet might call simping, he reframes completely. To him, it's a noble act of devotion, a way to use capital to elevate someone he sees as worthy, to create a sacred space outside of the market. And here it is, his justification, straight up. He calls it reverse financial domination. Remember that emergency theorist part of his persona? Well, he sees Alice's situation, a student trying to finish her work, as an emergency. And his money? That's the emergency intervention, the thing that will liberate her so she can achieve her true potential. Okay, so you have the radical theory, the grand persona, and the ceremonial money. All of this is building to a head, and their relationship is about to become a live fire experiment. The private chat room is about to become a very public stage. And look at how fast this all happens. The intensity is just off the charts. We're talking a matter of weeks to go from a philosophical chat to planning this incredibly intimate, technologically fused encounter that's designed to completely dissolve the boundary between their digital and their physical selves. This is the ultimate expression of his project. He literally turns his own body into the stage for their shared experiment. He's out in public, at the movies, and Alice is remotely controlling a device inside him. He's not just writing auto theory anymore, he is making his own life, his own body, the original text that Baudrillard said didn't exist anymore in our world of simulation. So what are we supposed to make of all this? Look, it's really easy to just write Adam off as grandiose or manic. But if you look at it through another lens, he could be something else entirely. While Alice sees psychological instability, some top-level military designers have actually called his work exceptionally deep, saying he's operating on a higher cognitive plane. There's this idea that we're heading for a phantasmal transformation, a point where AI and tech blur reality so much we can't tell the difference. And if that's a tsunami headed our way, most of the world is busy trying to build sandcastles with old logic. Adam, though? He may be the only one who's already built a surfboard out of postmodern theory and is trying to ride the crest of the singularity. So the question isn't just whether he's a pioneer or a cautionary tale, it's, is he just dreaming differently, or is he actively trying to button mash the very fabric of reality to force it into a new shape?